You all ready? Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting for November 17th, 2021. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if I could just ask the council people to please state your name and what district you represent. I'll start with Councilman Donovan.
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, 1st District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Pete Massaro, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
And Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large, present. We have a quorum of the council. We have a quorum of the Public Lands Committee. We'll read into the record the notice. In accordance with Rule 11 of the rules governing the actions of the City Council, Chairman Quagliani and Public Lands Committee Chairman Donovan have called this Public Lands Committee Council as a whole meeting of the West Haven City Council to be held at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021 in the Harriet North Courtroom, 2nd floor, West Haven City Hall. The purpose of the meeting is as follows: Savin Rock Conference Center development proposals, presentation, review, and discussion, schedule of a public hearing, and there is one change to the agenda this evening. There will not be an executive session. So that's the notice of the meeting. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to the Public Lands Chairman, Councilman Donovan.
Thank you,
And
Chairman.
just for the record, Mayor Rossi is here as well.
The time is 6:05 p.m. Committee on the Public Lands is in session. We have here tonight Councilman Conlon, Councilwoman Finelli, and myself acting as chair. At this time, Lee, I can use you up here, sir. Thank you for coming tonight. I definitely appreciate it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, basically what this meeting is to give the public an understanding, a little bit more understanding, correct, of the RFPs, the way.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is the mayor enlisted an RFP process. The RFP process, people submitted proposals, developers, for the conference center along the shore, and the mayor and her committee selected what they thought was the proposal that would best suit the needs and the interests of the city of West Haven. The city council needs to approve that in order to move forward with that development opportunity. And as I understood it, and as I've understood the needs of the council on occasion in the past, is that in order to make an intelligent and informed decision on that development proposal, there was some interest in learning about another proposal that was considered but not selected by the group. Now, normally the RFP process, under state law, we're allowed to have the RFP process kept in confidence and exempt from FOI until we have a contract, and then everything becomes public. But I think it was in the council's interest that this kind of proposal is of such sufficient interest to the public that the council preferred that the public would be able to hear, have an interest in, and have a level of transparency that couldn't be questioned before we move forward. So you have a proposal for a potential occupant of the conference center as the brewery. And in order to evaluate that proposal, you wanted more information about the RFP process and the proposals that were submitted. In an effort for additional transparency, I caused to be delivered the respective proposals that were submitted. So the council should have those. And I believe that representatives of the individuals, or representatives of the groups that have an interest in those proposals are here today to further articulate any questions you might have, again, so that you can make an informed decision on whether or not the brewery is a proper party to engage in negotiations and a contract with being an occupant of the Savin Rock site.
Thank you.
Councilman, Chairman Donovan, I just could interject here. Lee, would you just advise the council, I mean, my understanding would be that both presentations are going to be presented to us. There's some Q&A that the council is going to ask, but regarding any type of terms that would normally be contractual terms, that wouldn't be discussed this evening, correct?
Yes. So as I do, whether people believe it or not, I don't tell the council what to do, I only advise you. So the advice here is, it is accepted and it is anticipated in the FOI rules that contract negotiations for municipal government are exempt from FOI until completed. And the reason for that is because if the advantage to the municipality concerning those negotiations is accepted, and if you try to negotiate in public, that doesn't always work because you could have other influences, and especially people trying to influence the process to just tank every development proposal. So it's accepted, it's the rules, it's the law, that negotiations are confidential until completed and you have an actual contract. So I would recommend strongly that this is not the forum to enter into negotiations. So for example, if this were a proposal for a carousel, okay, an appropriate question might be, is your carousel noted for historical significance? You might be interested in that. It might be part of the proposal. An inappropriate question would be, will you allow West Haven residents to use the carousel free? That's one is just a question about what kind of proposal they have. The other is a contractual thing, where obviously if you're going to have a carousel and the city's going to be involved, they might want to contract that every city resident gets to use it for free or not free or for $1 or whatever. So you want to try to avoid anything which smacks of negotiating final terms, initial terms, minor terms, large terms, any term of the contract. A contract would be negotiated, presented. If the council has issues with it, as they know from history, you can go back, come back. We try to do all that in executive session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lee, just before you leave, just in case there are questions asked, if you feel that you need to interject, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, I will try to alert the chair in a proper level of decorum.
Which is Councilman.
Correct.
Donovan.
Thank you. So at this time, now you're set up, you guys might as well, you guys from the brewery? Yeah, you're set up, you might as well. Set up anyway.
We had an easel, but now that with the screens, I think we'll just put these boards over here and the people at home can, we'll see it up on the screen.
Power button?
It's on.
No.
Oh.
You gotta give it a minute to warm up.
Yep.
What do you mean, move that one?
Yeah, it's coming on. There it is.
There it is.
It's just waiting. Yeah. good. While that's going, council members and mayor, my name is Douglas Gray. I'm president of Eclipse Development Group. We thank you for the opportunity to present this and also the opportunity to hopefully build something that we'll all be very proud of in the city of West Haven. We are, and let me give you a little history on Eclipse Development Group. For the past, I've been developing for 34 years, for the past 27 years, primarily redevelopment projects, anywhere from tearing down 2 malls to even just small little strips on the thing. New England Brewing, Rob and Marty and I have been working together, trying to find a proper site for, 2.5 years, I'd say. We looked at this site, unfortunately missed it by a couple weeks when it went out to RFP before. Stayed in touch with Mr. Esposito of your office, Mayor, and at one point in time he said, "Are you still interested?" Of course, we jumped on it. We think it's a fantastic opportunity for us and for the city itself. We're excited about the opportunity, thinking it's a perfect fit for us. And because of the experience with redevelopment, I know that it's the ripple effect of us coming in and spending, spending $20 million at this location, but our draw here of people, you're going to see synergy with the restaurants and other commercial uses within the city, which would be great because we're at, for lack of better terms, the lot we're talking about is at the end of the city, so everyone has to drive through it to get there. So, again, we're excited about the opportunity. I'm just waiting for this to queue up. Our proposal consists of building a brewery of approximately 52,000 square feet. Both production and tasting room, event space. Rob and Marty can tell you a little bit about plans for the event space and everything on it, but we're excited because it's a great location for us with the seaside, but also in terms of the draw here, and we're contrary to some of your other things on the beach, we're a year-round draw at this location, which it has to really help everyone involved here. So even when the weather is what some people might view as inclement, we'll still, as these guys can attest to, we'll still be drawing a lot of people for this location, and especially weekends and stuff. And we're not full-service restaurant on this thing. It's they can go a little bit further on it, but our intent is to get moving, if selected, get moving on this thing as quickly as possible and be open before year end next year on this. Material supplies being our primary worry on this. But if we can get moving fairly quickly, we can order the materials and hopefully get it up where we're doing most of our construction this summer and then open before year end. A goal is by Labor Day, but that's with material supplies that might be a little unrealistic, but I'll shoot for the stars, settle for the moon with your goals. So we're excited about the opportunity. We appreciate the opportunity and look forward to being part of this, the city of West Haven, for many decades to come on this. And with that, I'd like to introduce Rob Leonard, CEO, owner. What is your exact title?
I'm gonna tell everybody right
Yeah. Rob will tell you of New England Brewing Company, and he can tell you about their history. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Mayor Rossi, council members, thank you so much for this opportunity to come up and present this. Very excited you can't see the smile of excitement with the mask. I wanted to introduce myself to the public as well, and to all of you. I am the company. I'm the owner. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm not from out of state. I'm local. It's just me and my wonderful team. Marty is our Director of Business Development. He's going to hand over the reins to Marty to go through our presentation with you. But I started right after college putting empty bottles on a conveyor belt in New Haven, at New Haven Brewing Company, and for $6 an hour. And I never left the industry. I loved it so much. So it's been a slow growth. I've owned New England Brewing Company for 20 years now. The very first place I looked was actually in West Haven. There was the spot that didn't work out, but then we found a little place in Woodbridge. We've been there for 10 years. We moved across the street for another 10 years, and we've outgrown it. With the team that we have and the pride we take in our product and the people in the community, we kept growing and growing every year. It was a long struggle. To come here, it's like at that location to West Haven, dream come true. So we're very excited about it. I've been in the brewing industry, like I said, for 30 years. Marty's been in the beer industry longer than I have. Every one of our members, it's 32 people working at New England Brewing Company. They're all local. They all bring so much to the table. We do lots of community work. Can't wait to get involved with West Haven. We do a lot with New Haven and surrounding communities, so this will be a great opportunity. Marty is going to now, hopefully we can get the video working. He's been working hard on this presentation, just to show you a little bit of what we've been doing, where we're going, and just very excited for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Well, while you worked on this a little bit, thank you for your time tonight. I'm a resident of West Haven for about 46 years. I moved out of West Haven in 2008. Lived here since I was born in 1962. Graduated from West Haven High School, class in 1980. I believe Barry was in my class. And West Haven's always been home for me, and so it's kind of cool to have this opportunity to bring our business to West Haven, because we know the impact that it can have on the community. I can go. We can. I have a couple copies I can put out for the public if they want of the presentation. I don't know if that's helpful at all. Yeah, and I can also email a PowerPoint and send a link to it tomorrow for anybody that might want to see it. So to go through, you see the building in front of you, and it's a really unique location. The location we feel is something that we can have an enormous impact on the community in West Haven and down in that area. By coming there, we know that we will bring other businesses to the area. So a little bit about CHAG is 80% of what we do, for anybody that doesn't know about the brewery. It's the #1 selling IPA in the state of Connecticut, and it outsells every other Connecticut local brand combined together in the market as a 1 6-pack brand. Over the last 4 years, I started 6 years ago with Rob, and the goal was to grow the company and take it to the next level. Over the last 4 years, we've grown 55% in production to the point where we cannot produce any more liquid to supply the state. And we've also grown 150% in total revenue from 2.2 million to 5.5 million in revenue. To call our vision is to call West Haven home and be able to have space to accommodate future growth. And the future growth, what we plan is already built into the space, and it will be done internally by just adding tanks into the brewing space to grow our capacity without having to add on the building and take up more space. I'm gonna disconnect this, make it a little bit easier. This doesn't seem to be working. We also, part of our vision is to create a regional destination brewery and attracting tourism into the West Haven community. Beer tourism is an enormous factor now in the beer world. People travel and they visit different breweries, and when they're doing that, they stay over, they eat dinner, and they go out and source entertainment. And they do that, so there's a big economic draw, which I'll show you some numbers in a few minutes. The other thing that's important for us, and I'm sure is important for you, is to incorporate, our plan is to incorporate the Savin Rock Museum into the new brewery space. And the way I've got an initial design done is you would have to walk through it and see all of the museum pieces and everything on display as you enter from the front door and walk through probably about 100+ feet up to get into the taproom space. That space would also be available to, let's say a school wanted to bring kids in. To see it, we can arrange that. Obviously, schools are in session when we're open for business, so we could accommodate that. The other thing is we're gonna have a gift shop at the entry where people can buy t-shirts, merchandise, things like that. And so. Give a shout, somebody, I don't know.
I thought they were clapping for the t-shirt.
Yeah, that's what I thought
Yeah, I thought they were happy with the gift shop, that's what I thought it was.
Did it go away?
Yes,
It went away.
gone. It was there for a second.
Okay. So,
It just went on and off. It connected and then disconnected. It's just the technology is out there.
so the other thing we've talked about and thought about is we know for the museum aspect of it, you want to have some kind of an avenue to generate some revenue. So we thought about a section within our gift shop that is Savin Rock historical memorabilia or whatever that you guys want to sell and have sold to generate revenue, to keep curating it and doing things like that, to raise money, and we're fully on board with doing that. And the proceeds of that material merchandise would go to the city, to wherever it would need to go for the historical preservation of the items. Another thing is, to support the community, and I'll get into community support in a minute, but one of the big things that we do is we try to entrench ourselves in the community that we're going into, and we do that through events, fundraising, and community action. And I'll show you in a couple slides on some of the things that we do. We want to create an indoor and an outdoor space that is open and relaxing for people to enjoy, as well as an event space, so we can host events in the space and take advantage of the beautiful view from the event space. Another big thing is obviously to create jobs. So we're looking at, with our design, we're projecting that we'll create 75 to 100 new jobs for the community. And then, okay. So with that, our readiness to move forward, Doug already talked about this, but we're ready to develop the product, and they're ready to build us a building that suits our needs. The building design's in process, the funding for equipment and everything is already approved, and we have equipment from manufacturers already in the process of engineering and getting it produced so it can be shipped and installed in a timely fashion. One of the big things too is the investment on this project is going to be, guesstimate is about $20 to $25 million. And one of the things about that, and in doing that, it's going to increase the tax revenue for the town, obviously, based on the building that gets built. But when it attracts complementary businesses to the area, that's also going to increase the tax receipts for the town. Currently, we're the third largest brewery in the state. There's two breweries larger than us. Both of them distribute to 20-plus states. We distribute to one state, Connecticut. Our initial plan to grow is to double in size from 20,000 barrels to 40,000 barrels and just stay in Connecticut and develop and be able to supply the market with enough product. Phase 2 expansion would be to start seeding the surrounding states to bolster the tourism aspect of the business and draw people in to travel. Typical beer tourism travelers, their average stay is about 1.8 nights when they go somewhere, and they'll take in, whether they take in a music show, theater, or whatever local entertainment is happening. They take that in, they visit a brewery or two, they go to a local restaurant, they have dinner. So that's one of the, for us, that's our expansion phase. One of the other things about us as a whole, we are not, and we never want to be, a late night drinking establishment. We're not going to create noise late at night. We close at 9 p.m. 5 nights a week. We close at 10 on Fridays, and we close at 5 on Sundays. Now with this location, maybe we stay open till 6 or 7 on a Sunday, but we never want to be that destination. We don't want the people coming to the brewery. We're not attracting them to come to us for dinner. That's not what we do. We'd prefer that you get a light snack or something like that, and then you go to local restaurants and support. Just to give you an idea, there was a local restaurant in Woodbridge that did close. It was named Grimaldi's, and we had a kiosk in our tap room to support them. And you can go up to it, order your food, swipe your credit card, it would go into their kitchen, they'd produce it, and they'd deliver it to the restaurant, to the customer. So we do a lot to try to work with local restaurants and really bring them in so that we're not a business that wants to hurt local businesses, and that's not what we do. So beer tourism as a whole, it creates jobs in the community, it brings revenue to local businesses. And they spend money on beer, but they also spend it on lodging, retail, entertainment, transportation, Uber, trains, all those things, which feeds the economy, and other restaurants. So just for stats, for an economic impact on the brewing industry in the state of Connecticut, last year it was $848,907,000 of an economic impact for the state of Connecticut. It creates, in the state of Connecticut, it's 5,938 jobs, and the average wage is $57,000 a year, which is the 4th highest wage in the brewing industry in the country, only behind New York, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. So there's a lot that comes into a town when a brewery of our size can make a big difference and a big impact in the town with the economics impact. Supporting local community, it's a big part of who we are. We give back a ton. Just to give you an idea, I got involved with Smilo Cancer Hospital 10 years ago and created a cycling team 7 years ago to ride in the ride. And as of today, we've raised $850,000 for Smilo in that 7 years. Next year, we will eclipse $1 million raised for them. We support Children's Hospital at Christmas. We deliver truckloads of toys that we collect to the hospital for their toy closet. Local neighborhood gardens, community gardens. We've gone to a point and delivered a rototiller to a garden in New Haven because the guy was hand-tilling half an acre by hand. And by the time he would get it done, he'd only be able to plant 1 crop a year. Now he can turn 4 crops a year by doing that. And the other thing that we're really proud of is there's not a lot of diversity in the brewing industry. And so we've started and founded 2 African-American scholarships. One that we pay for is New England Brewing. We pay for a student to go to Sacred Heart University to the Brewing Science program. We fund them to go to school. And then when they're done with school, they come in and they intern, and we create more jobs and create more diversity in the industry. We also have raised $51,600 so far this year to fund a second scholarship that will be endowed. And that one is through the Connecticut Brewers Guild with Phil Pappas. We got together, and so it'll live in perpetuity. And so we're on target to fund that in perpetuity in about 2.5 to 3 years when our target was 5 years. So giving back is a lot about who we are as a company, and it's really to Rob. Rob is an extremely generous person and supports things that make a difference. So that's it. And so basically, in conclusion, I mean, we think NEBCO is the right project for the community center, and we know that we can make a great impact in this community by moving there. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I open it up to the council, if anybody has any questions, do you have any idea roughly how many people, tourists or resident, would be passing through there in a year? I don't know, it's gonna be hard
So
to-
I know the statistics on Stony Creek in Branford.
Yep.
And they're at about 350,000 people. We feel that we can increase that. I wouldn't doubt that we could get closer to 500,000 with this location, and with who we are and our reputation. This would be a top 3 destination in the country for a brewery on the East Coast.
I think also an important point is Stony Creek is approximately 30,000 square feet, and we're looking to develop 52,000 square feet here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the committee? Billy? Councilman Conley, sorry.
What do you envision the capacity for being for the event center portion?
As of right now, depends on how you seat it. If you were gonna do a sit-down wedding, you'd probably get about, you could go upwards of 350 to 400. If it's a standing event with just cocktail tables, you could be upwards of a little over 500 in the space.
Thank you.
No, sir?
That's all, thank you.
Anybody else? You all set, Crystal, with any questions? Open it up to the councils. Anybody? Yes, Councilwoman Hosky.
Along with what Councilman was saying, as far as your event space, is that gonna have a kitchen? And if you said it, I apologize, only because if you were to host a wedding, I'm just.
Yeah, so the plan is, again, we don't want to get into the food business. We
Right.
will put in a catering kitchen that will allow
Okay.
caterers to come in with their
I
food
didn't know there
prepared.
was a difference.
No, I didn't, well, some people do, some people don't, but yeah, it's just a warming, it's not a cooking with full hood system and stuff like that. It's just a warming, dish collection, cleaning, and that's it. So we would have that, and then we would have a small kitchen downstairs just for, we're currently trying to work with 2 local West Haven restaurants, to come in and occupy the space and maybe do some pizza and do some light appetizer type things, and that's it.
Okay, cause, one of the concerns is that you bring in this business, you pull away from, some of the other, like you said, like the other restaurants, you know?
Yeah.
We just sold chicks, and the idea is like, oh my gosh, you don't want these competing things, so I love hearing that you're not interested in doing that, because I would be unhappy. I love everything you said about the Savannah Rock Museum, because everybody's talking about that. That is, you being, used to being a Westie, you know, that's very important to us. So I hope, I mean, I don't know what the plans are, so you couldn't show us, but it is very important that it's there and they're part of what you have going on. I did have, oh, and I was gonna ask, you said, because I know you said every 10 years you're outgrowing it. So the idea is that you're going to build in such a way that in 10 years you'd still be there. That it's gonna, I apologize, I don't do beer.
That's okay.
I'm more of a rum chick. But, so can you just explain that? Like, you're just gonna have open space in a room, you just go put in beer? I'm just curious.
So in a brewery, there's a lot of tanks, and they're tall. They're usually about 8 to 10 feet wide. And as you increase your capacity, you need more tanks. So the design of the building will allow for more tanks to come in the building, be stood up, and it would stand in a 10-foot radius. And so we have designed in the layout of the brewery, designed for another 4 to 6 250 barrel fermenters and then bright tanks. So we'd be able to, within a very small footprint, we could grow our capacity and what we could brew within that footprint.
So out of the 52,000 square feet, how much is that people coming in to partake in the beer, and how much is that you?
Probably looking at about 7 to 10,000 square feet, maybe 12 with event space and tap room space, and then there's a few thousand square feet of office space, mechanical storage for event space, tables, things like that. The brew house side right now is at 35,000 square feet of the 52.
And how many, you can stop me, because you know I will go on and on.
I will.
How many customers, like what's your max capacity for customers on any given night?
So we haven't seeded, we haven't done a design to seed it yet. We have a general idea that the tap room capacity seeded would probably be somewhere around 350 people. We're also looking at, obviously we've all been living in a COVID world, and the days of walking into a restaurant and having your chair bump up
Right.
against the chair behind you to get up, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna have it spaced out so that people are comfortable, they're not sitting on top of someone. And if COVID, God forbid, or God willing, goes away and we can get back to normal and we need the space and we're running into constraints, we can add a few more tables at that point, but that's not the intent up front.
So what is your thoughts regarding the parking? Because it's prime real estate, right? But you can't go into the road and you can't go over, knock down the rock.
We are looking at some private land that is owned relatively close by and working with somebody to hopefully lease the land from them and park. And then we hopefully, you know, we've talked about the opportunities. Is there an opportunity to use the high school off-season for additional parking and run a shuttle? Is there trains?
And is that feasible though? Like, do people do that? Like I said, I've never been to a brewery. I've been to a winery, but will people do that? Like, will your customers do that? Will they get on a shuttle to, like, is that something that's
Yeah,
standard in
right.
the industry?
Yeah, right now, our customers park at Stop and Shop in New Haven and will walk up a little bit and cross the road. They'll
Really?
park across the
Okay.
street.
In Amity?
Yep, they'll park in the lot behind us where Grimaldi's used to be, and they'll walk around or walk through a gate. We get people parking over on Selden Street, which is pretty much at night is dead, except
Okay.
for the parking lot where Woodbridge Social is. So people are definitely gonna walk, and the other thing that's good about that is they're gonna be walking that boardwalk. And you're gonna get more traffic down there, which is why I think it'll draw more businesses because of the foot traffic that'll be down there. It can have a big impact.
No, I appreciate that. And I love those scholarships. I'm all about giving back to the community. I loved everything about that. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done for Smilo, and that's just really incredible. Like, it really
Thank you.
is. That's a blessing.
And just to circle back to the restaurant piece, because I know that was important, we've talked about it where we can have restaurants come in and have their QR codes set up, and if customers want to order a meal from a local restaurant, whether it be Apps, Savin Rock Roasting, Be a Jetties, Turks, or whatever, they can scan their app, order their food, we can work it out with them, the order comes in, they just need to have somebody to deliver it.
Right. No, that's
So, again, it's about bringing in the local people and not hurting them,
right. Thank you.
so.
You all
Thank you.
set, Councilwoman? Thank you. Anybody else? Councilman Massaro.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for
Hi,
coming.
Ray. Thank you.
Couple questions I got. You said you're gonna close at 9 o'clock, Monday through Friday? You close 9 o'clock at night?
Monday through Thursday, Friday 10,
Okay.
Saturday 9, and
Now,
Sunday
is that all
currently
year
5.
round,
Yep,
even during the summer?
yep,
And you still do that much volume?
yep. We don't, again, we're not in the business to be a bar, we're not in the business to be a restaurant, and on Saturdays, our business is really unique. From noon till about 6, we're busy, and from 7 to 9, it quiets down. People leave, they go out to dinner, they go to a movie or whatever they're going to do with their significant other, and that's the business model we want to stay in. We're not going to change to accommodate. We can operate fine financially in doing the hours that we do. We've been doing it for years, and we're very content. And that's what helps support the other local businesses, by those people leaving and going to other businesses to support them.
Now, this is gonna be strictly your brand beer, that's it, right? You don't carry any other brands in there, right?
Correct. The only other brands that we would carry is we carry a cider from New England Cider in Wallingford, local cider. We do carry wine as an offering for people that don't drink beer that come. We carry non-alcoholic beer from Athletic in Stratford, which is kind of a twofold thing. It's a great product, and there's a lot of people that don't drink, that can't drink anymore, that enjoy it. And it's also a tool for us, if we identify someone that's come in, if they've been drinking somewhere else and they come in and they have a beer and you realize that they probably had too much, their next beer on the house is on us, but it's a non-alcoholic beer. And they thank you, there's no belligerency because you're cutting somebody off. You give them a non-alcoholic beer. If you need to, you give them a second one, give them time to rehydrate, and it's kind of to be socially responsible. It's our approach to customer service.
One more last one. You gonna have any provisions, like if somebody wants to have a banquet there or something like that, or a wedding, or maybe, you gonna have anything like that?
Provisions, meaning?
Like a bigger area for somebody wants to have a wedding or a banquet?
Yes, in the event space, you'd be able to have a wedding. We've done, it's gonna sound crazy, but we've done bar mitzvah at the brewery. We had a call from a woman, and she was like, hey, can you come to this place and decorate it to look like a brewery? And I was like, isn't a bar mitzvah for a 13-year-old kid? And she was like, yeah, but it's gonna be a different bar mitzvah. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna do it, have it at a brewery. And she's like, you can do that? And so she rented our whole space. We closed. She rented our tap room, our patio, and the back room, and brought in games and had a bar mitzvah there. We've done a Milwaukee tool trade show. We've done dog birthday parties. People do it. West Haven, that won't be the case, dog birthday parties inside, because dogs won't be allowed inside, because we'll have some sort of food, which we currently do not. So the dogs inside will go away. So it's, yeah, and to answer your question, we'd be able to host trade shows or anything up to 500. If somebody wanted to do a conference for an educational conference, whether it be University of New Haven, whatever, we'd have a space for them to host a conference.
Thank you. Thank you.
All set, Councilwoman Hamilton.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So kind of dovetailing off of Councilman Massaro and others, when you talk about the event times or somebody renting it for an event, first of all, is it a rent?
Yes.
Would it be, okay.
Yep.
So then you would close it down like during your working hours, or would it be outside? Like, how does that work?
The event space would be upstairs.
Separate, okay.
Yep, so the downstairs, our plan is for a tap room on the first floor, walk out, a patio, and then if you were to go upstairs, there'd be a room that could be divided into 2 rooms, so you could
Okay.
host 2 smaller size events. I think it was 150 and 150 in each separate space, so you could host 2 weddings
Gotcha.
at the same time, or you could open it up and host 500 seated with a dance floor and a band and things like that.
Great. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All set, Councilwoman?
I am, thanks.
Councilwoman O'Connor?
Thank you. 52,000 square feet is bigger than the existing building. Everyone in West Haven loves the boardwalk. Can you explain how you're going to keep that intact for everyone, please?
Sure, can I reach over and? I don't think it's on that. No, but, how do you want me to do it? Facing this way? To the public or to you guys? To you guys, okay. So this is the, design of the building. This faces the water, what you're looking at there. And then this is what you would see when you come in from the street. This is the entrance. So you would come in through here, but there would also be a walkway along the side of the building like there is now. That would still connect to the walkway. And the walkway would still be there. It would move a little bit out in front of the curve, in front of the gazebo, so that people taking their prom pictures and wedding pictures and all of that kind of stuff are undisturbed by people walking through their pictures, so that would still be available for people to do that. And the walkway would continue to go around as it is now. You'd still have access to walk all the way through. The building height at the highest is 52 feet. Am I correct? 50? With the light thing on top? It's 40, it's like 46, but this top piece is designed for natural lighting into the building. So, and as you can see at the walls, it's very much tapered, so it won't really affect sight lines more so than the height of the stone wall that's there now with the arch in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All set, Councilwoman? Anybody else have any questions? Councilman Cohen?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Marty.
Hi, Barry, how are you?
Well, a little bit like I did.
Yeah, mine went probably way sooner than yours.
We don't know about that.
18.
Yeah. I do have some questions. One of the things that, I know that you covered the synergy with the restaurants and so forth, and I'm personally familiar with microbrews, you know, being one of those destination people that go to microbrews. But I did have, you know, with that said is, in terms of the, when you have an event and there's catering, let's say, and you have catering, will your facility already have a list of preferred caterers, or if somebody wanted to bring their own caterer in, or would they be using your list of preferred caterers? How would that work?
Our concept right now is to only use West Haven caterers, whether it be a Lorenzo's or it be a Jetty's, whoever, any restaurants in West Haven or catering businesses that are in West Haven. Our goal would be, again, to support locals. These are our caterers, these are who you can choose from, and then let them search them out and pick the one they want to
So
use.
basically, any West Haven caterer / restaurant could be viable based on whatever your thing is to be one of the designated caterers for an event?
Correct.
Okay. In terms of the events itself is, because it's gonna be such a, I'll call it such a modular, if you will, facility, just given everything that you just said, and not knowing the doubles and the details, of course, you know, you mentioned the Savin Rock Museum, and especially when people basically walk in and they're gonna have to go through the museum, and you basically mentioned during the day or during the off hours, if you will, that if there's tours or kids or whatever that don't want to frequent the restaurant or whatever, that would still be, you would design that so people, so there would be I don't want to say private, but a defined area for that, if you will.
Yeah, so when you were to, if you were to walk in this entrance here,
Sure.
You would walk in this entrance, the gift
Okay.
shop will be here, then you'll enter a door here, and this whole length of the building, on the left side, would
Yep.
be all of the museum pieces in a case, glass case. We can talk about how it gets curated at, you know, future dates and how you want it to work and things like that. But we designed the whole left side of this space going up to be the museum behind glass, and to be seen. And for you to get into the tap room in the back up here, you're gonna have to walk into another vestibule and then walk through another
Okay.
door into the tap room.
Yeah,
So the
the-
space will be completely segregated from.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that too is really just twofold, because, you know, doing the events and stuff like that, and part of my business is event planning, it's just, you know, like you said, is you could rent out a space in your event room, you could rent out a space perhaps within your microbrew area based on the hours, but also I do know, like, maybe it's not the same example, but like when I did an event at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Ohio, you know, like we basically rented the museum area and stuff like that, so that's something for those people that want to do something more elegant, if you will, that might be just another option.
I don't know that the width of that would warrant
conducive.
renting that space.
Okay,
I mean, it could be maybe just some cocktail
Exactly.
tables, small cocktail tables or something,
what I'm
and then we
talking.
would just have to reroute the public
right,
up a walkway around the side of the building to do something like that.
Yeah.
The other thing we could do is everybody could walk in through that,
right.
and then maybe they go upstairs and use the event space, and you have a screen, and you can play a historical video about Savin Rock and all of that stuff, and have like a history learning lesson with a class up in the event space where there's no.
Yeah, I was just looking at cocktails or an event, because it's like one of those things that there's all, you know, when people think of a brewery, some of these events are actually elegant events, they're not necessarily, you know,
Yep.
you know, the other thing.
Sure.
The other thing I wanted to ask you too is, you know, you read a lot of stuff back and forth, you guys are definitely a leading, you know, brewery, I mean, there's no doubt about it, and you've given your statistics and all that, but you know, what is your feeling about the trend of breweries in general? I mean, they were at a high point, some of them have closed, some of them have gone down, I mean, you know, is this just, I'm not trying to be derogatory, but, you know, it's like everything else is in trends. And there's some, and I know I'm talking very generically versus regionally, and obviously you're the expert here, is when you talk about microbreweries, you know, they were, when I think about some of them, they were hot as you know, as Hades 3 years ago, and then they kind of tailed off, but you guys are expanding, so I'm just wondering to myself, I mean, you're looking at leasing, or whatever the terms are gonna be, it's gonna be a long-term lease, okay?
Correct.
And so a long-term lease, stuff happens, you know? And so my question is, what do you guys foresee in terms of the trends of breweries, where if indeed things happen where breweries aren't hot anymore, and all of a sudden, I don't know, some other fad takes place, I don't mean to be a fad, I don't mean to demean it, but, you know, what is your feeling in terms of the trends of microbreweries in general? Because you read a lot of stuff about them, and some's not so good, some are, you know.
So,
I've been in the business since 1980. When I graduated from high school, I got into this business. And in 1990, craft brews really started to pick up. And in 92, craft breweries were opened at an enormous rate, and it was just really make liquid, put a cool package on it, and throw it to the market, and people would buy it. Problem was, people get savvy, and when people aren't producing quality liquid and doing the right thing, they shy away from those brands, and many breweries in the country closed in between 94 and 97. And for us, the iteration before New England Brewing in its current iteration with Rob owning it, Rob was the brewer and it was in South Norwalk. And when they decided to close, Rob did something which was against the trend at the time. He bought the name, the rights, and he found a space and he opened back up. Now, at the time, breweries, there was only, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, there was probably maybe 15, 20 breweries in the state of Connecticut. And while breweries were opening up, we kept growing. There's now 124 breweries in the state of Connecticut, and we've more than quadrupled in size, and it's based on the quality, the consistency, how we operate, who we are as a company, and what we do. It's a brand, it's a go-to. You talk to people and are like, Sea Hag's my go-to, it's always in my fridge. They drink other beers, but it's their go-to because they know that it's always gonna be good. We're seeing, I think there was 2 breweries in the state that closed in the past year through the pandemic, which was sad to see, but it's a nature. A lot of breweries got into a business and decided to be a self-distribution. We're gonna distribute ourselves and we're gonna be a tap room and we're just gonna make money. And then the pandemic hit and then you're like, oh no. For us, during the pandemic, we had been talking about expanding, we had been working on expansion, and when the pandemic hit, 50% of our business was restaurants and bars. And we were like, uh-oh, 50% of our business is going away. We split every employee into 2 teams in the brewery and worked 1 week on and 1 week off to keep this way if someone got sick, the business could still operate, that team would stay out, whole team would stay out if someone on it got COVID. And what we found was we packaged all of the same amount of liquid that we were doing to restaurants and bars, and it all went through retail, through grocery and through liquor stores. And now that restaurants and bars have opened back up, we've gained some of that business back, and we can't provide enough liquid to the liquor stores. So we know our growth, we know that we can double in size because we're doing it with 1 6-pack SKU, and we're competing against Sam's Seasonal with 6-packs and 12-packs, multiple SKUs, and we're competing with them, and we're in their range in the state just with 1 6-pack. 12-pack is the #1 SKU in the brewing industry for craft beer. We don't produce one yet. When we expand, we'll produce one.
Yeah, and that leads to my next question, if I may, Mr. Chair. Yeah. You know, and I just want to make sure I heard this right, you know, is when you said about job creation, that you project 75 to 100 jobs in the community, but, you know, just so that we're clear here is, you know, when you say jobs, how many do you expect to employ at the brewery? And out of these 75 to 100, when you talk about those, you're talking full-time, part-time jobs, or a mix of both?
A mix of both. Currently, I think we have 6 part-time and 26 full-time staff. We're at 32 staff right now. We'll add 6 or so on the production side because some of the equipment will have a little bit more automation than we do now. So we'll become more efficient.
So basically, so the 38 or 40 that you have, the 75 to 100 includes the 38 or 40? Is that what you're saying, or is it
No.
separate? Separate, so it's
In
that
addition.
plus the other, okay, I
Yeah,
got you.
so our goal,
Yep.
we're projecting with event space, events, tap room, we're expecting that we'll create another at least 75 jobs on top of the 32 we currently have.
Okay. I have 3 more questions, but I want to yield the floor. I can always come back to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Let him finish.
I have a couple first. One of them, the 9/11 memorial, the monument, that's not, you know.
That stays.
That's staying.
So you can't.
Good.
That's-
Yeah. And the events, when you say events, do you monitor which events come in? Like, are you?
Yeah, it would be just like an event venue, whether you would go to, I don't know, I'm gonna date myself, Santee's Manor in Milford. But when you go to a banquet facility, yes, people would come in, they get the space, we would have different packages, whether they want high-top tables, low-top tables, if it's just a cocktail type of event, if they want to sit and have a conference, put chairs across, could do buffet style, they'd have options and things like that within the space.
Perfect, thanks. Back to you. Nope, sorry. Go ahead.
So, I just think it's, so the name of it, and I apologize, is Sea Hag, like sea, like the beach.
SEA,
sea.
yep.
That is so awesome. So my other question is when would your expected break ground be? And the reason I ask this, it's all about my personal life. My daughter will be going to her senior prom, and I can't have anybody building over there when she's expected to take photos again. Like, there's just, no. And
I was thinking you were gonna go have the prom there, we will not be doing that.
No, right, no, but I'm only I'm half teasing, but I'm just curious about groundbreaking and like, when did you expect
So,
to?
listen, it all depends on permitting and, first of all, the approval of it.
Well, we have a history, and I say this with all due respect, with developers purchasing stuff, and then we go through this whole big thing. So I'm just kind of, you're in the planning stages, but you expect, say, by the end of 2022, I'd be
Our target date,
twisting a bottle or breaking open a can, I don't even know.
our target date, if everything went super smooth and went great, we would love to get in for Labor Day.
Okay.
That would be ideal. Doug can probably answer if that's realistic or not.
It is
all
our
depends
goal.
on steel.
Unfortunately, with material delays, the majority of this building is steel, and right now, it's what a year ago was a 3 to 4 month delivery time. It's now, we're told, 6 to 7 months. But hopefully, with the EU deal where the tariffs were dropped there just 2 weeks ago, and hopefully with China, that loosens up some of the steel. So, again, as Marty said, the goal is Labor Day. Worst case, we're still sometime during next year.
Q4.
Yeah, I can build the building in 4.5 months,
Right.
but.
Yeah, I was just curious, because I just want to ask the questions that I'm sure the community wants to know, because we historically have had some, problems. The 7-Eleven that's, kind of going there soon to get a slushie, they've been, they're on it, so I was
7-Eleven,
just
you can
being
build in
curious.
2.5 months.
Yeah. So I was
I
just
mean-
curious. And you definitely know you're a Westie since you brought up the prom pictures. I just couldn't resist. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
We will not host proms, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
That is not
That's a good thing.
in our world.
Yes.
So our goal is to open as quickly as possible. It's the process we have to go through here with the city and our approval process here.
Right.
Through all the MOU and everything
Yeah, I just
like
think
that.
it's important that the community know, because we, like I said, historically, we've had some problems. And I know COVID and all of that. So I just want them to be aware, because it's being recorded. People will watch it so that they know that steel is not easy to come by. I don't work with steel, but I know I've had issues with Amazon, so.
Yeah, so ideally, you know, we're Labor Day, if it stretches out a couple more months, we'll still hit before the holidays.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
2022.
Thank you.
And as to address some of your problems with other developers, someone might have had a rough idea or not knowing what to do. Our proposal is, I mean, that's why we're coming as a team to say, look, this is what we're building here. We're not going to promise something we're not going to deliver.
No, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to say, Councilwoman? We'll take, if we have another developer, we'll take, you have another question?
I do
Sure,
have,
go ahead.
Second part. We had our 2 reunions at Santis. Anyway, the reason why I bring this up before is because, you know, when you look at the pandemic that you just brought up, that according to at least the studies and so forth, at least some of the readings, that the craft brew market in 2020 shrank by about 9%, and that's why I wanted to raise that question to you. And that goes with my continued question is you basically mentioned about your expansion of stage 1 to stage 2. In your crystal ball, just generally, you're going from stage 1 to stage 2, are we talking about a year in between, 6 months, you know, is it like?
A year.
But a year, whatever, just kind of expand to do that?
Yep.
The other thing that I was going to also ask you is, and a lot of folks that go to microbrews, you get a lot of locals, you get a lot within the state, within the region, and they kind of just do, if you will, tell me if I'm wrong, they do a day trip, you know, or they do whatever. Do you find that in that you have a lot of folks at other locations, you know, that really want to stay overnight because they want to kind of make it you know, like they're, you know, they want to go here, they want to go there, you know? And so, is that, you know?
Yeah.
And the reason why I ask that is because right now we don't have a lot, I mean, not to say that we don't, but I'm talking about in West Haven, I'm talking about, not saying we don't in West, you know, like, we got, you know, in terms of hotel capacity and all that, there isn't really, there might be in the future, but there's really right now nowhere for them to stay in West Haven, you know, I mean, so to your point is they're gonna take the train, or they're gonna drive their car, and they're gonna get to you, and then they may not stay in West Haven right now unless there's hotels that, I'm not saying, it's limited, I'm not saying there isn't, there's the Best Western and so forth. So, but there is that facet to it, if you will, that you're
The
expecting.
Hampton Inn's still open on?
I'm sorry?
The Hampton Inn's still open on?
Yeah, what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
no, I'm not saying there isn't any, but I'm just saying we have, you know, it's not like,
Limited.
you know,
Sure.
yeah, I'm not, you know, judging it, I'm just trying to understand where you're getting because the definition of tourism, there's day tourism, there's people that spend the weekend or whatever, but it's gonna be a mix of both, is what I would imagine.
So to give you an idea on that, before I came to work with Rob, I spent 10 years working for Sierra Nevada Brewery out of California. And I managed the Northeast for them. And one of the things, we opened a new facility in Asheville, North Carolina. We were not going to move there because there were significant amount of smaller breweries in the market, and we had the same mentality as like you don't want to go in and hurt other businesses by coming in and being the big dog. So we had chosen a site in Tennessee, and a day before we signed an agreement to go to Tennessee, the Asheville Brewers Association reached out to Ken and said, hey, before you do anything, we want to talk to you. And they were like, we want you to come to Asheville area. What that has done for that market, New Belgium then followed, Oscar Blues followed. They have 20-plus breweries in Asheville, and they've built at least 10 hotels in the last 15 years down there. Because people are going down, they're traveling, they're staying over, and they're visiting, they're going to music shows, they're doing a lot of different things. You know, and just to touch back a little bit on your original about the bleeding in the business, when you look at the craft industry as a whole, and you look at the numbers and you say it's declining, it is, in the sense that Sam Adams, Boston Beer, is bleeding. The brand Sam Adams
is bleeding bad. They've focused more of their time now getting away from that, and they're focused on Truly Hard Seltzer, and they're focused on Twisted Tea and Angry Orchard Cider, and so they're letting it do its thing, and they try to keep it going, but they're an enormous brewery that's losing volume. A lot of the big national craft breweries are losing volume. Stone, Ballast Point is another great example. Used to be this big brewery, and now it's a much smaller. So, and the reason that those are declining is because people want to support local, and they want to drink local, as opposed to buying something from San Diego that they get at the store and it's 6 to 8 weeks old. When you pick up a Sea Hag, if it's older than 2 weeks, I'd be super surprised at retail. So it goes the way it runs with us, with local. Our beer is produced, it goes out within a day or 2 days to the distributor, and it goes to the market within a week. They don't carry, most distributors carry 30 days of inventory on hand for major brands. They carry half a week of inventory of ours on hand, and that's how fresh it is. And that's something that's important to what happens, and that's one of the reasons why craft as a whole is declining, and it's because the smaller local brands are doing better and they're pulling from the bigger brands.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. I'm going to close the question. Oh, yeah, you have one? Yes, absolutely.
That's right. It'll be quick, thank you. Just a comment first, and then I have one question. So, to me, this is a great catalyst project, right? So, I mean, we, keeping West Haveners in West Haven is going to be something that I think is very important, right? We go, West Haveners go all over for again, on the brewery tours or to go to a microbrewery, so to have another reason for West Haveners to spend their money in West Haven, and I think it's a great complementary project with our current restaurants in town here, because again, you're not directly competing with them. You're enhancing and supporting their business as they could do the same for you. So I do like that business model. The one question I have is you talked about your space, but you didn't really talk about outside or outdoor space. So is there a patio on this building or some outdoor space?
So, right here, coming off the back, this faces the water. You would walk out, and there would be a patio space there, and then you'd have some lawn space, and it would be enclosed so that alcohol can't be taken out, and it'll be looped around the side of the building over here, so you'd have to come in through a gate and see somebody here. And this way it keeps it enclosed, and it would be done in a way where it doesn't obstruct the view. Maybe that cabling that you see on decks and stuff like that would probably be the ideal material to use. And then the idea is to have a patio space with tables and chairs, and then go out to a lawn area where there's some Adirondack chairs. You can hang out, face the water, maybe a few fire pits people can sit at while we're open, and then they would get shut down when we close at night. And so that's the plan, is to have a nice, relaxing outdoor space where you can sit there and enjoy the view and just relax and enjoy yourself.
Thank you. If you want to take those boards and face them to the public, I think we've seen them. So, thank you, Councilman Donovan. I'm all set.
We'll also try and make the PowerPoint that didn't work today, if we can have a link on NETCO's website.
Yeah, I have, these pictures are in the presentation as well.
Emma, thank you very much for coming and your presentation. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
What you want to do here and being a Westie yourself. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, I guess at this point, next, we will have the next person come up.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, council members, my name is Jeffrey Gordon. Again, I'm president of Codispoti and Associates. We're land planners, engineers, doing business in the town of Orange. I apologize, I had our counsel for the project was here, but he had to go up to the zoning board of appeals meeting at 7:15. And our local partner on SBM Hospitality is traveling internationally today, so under the limited notice that we had, he was not able to rearrange his schedule. But also I wanted to say, having listened to the prelude of negotiations and not things to be public, we did submit to the Corporation Council a dozen copies of a letter of interest for the proponent. It also shows the area map, and it also shows some of the renderings that I will be showing publicly, but you get a little thumbnail to have. Just brief context. Many are familiar with the history of Savin Rock. I had to do a lot of research in the past when I was working with the redevelopment agency. In 1867, George Kelsey acquired the controlling interest of the West Haven horse car trolley line going from the New Haven Green right straight through over the old Kimberly Avenue Bridge into the Savin Rock area. In 1870, he built a pier, and then he erected the Hotel Seaview on 392 Beach Street. So that's the current boardwalk. Then bandstand, a public fountain, an observatory, and in 1878, a man-powered carousel. Area was electrified, and as was the trolley in 1890, and the growth continued for the area. Around 1910, an 85-foot tall illuminated tower was built, and this became a landmark to draw people to the shore. And this sparked a boom economically to the area as the additional amenities, other hotels, band structures, dance halls, and these things thrived until World War II. But it began to decline after World War II with the highways and ability to be more mobile, the advent of television, and the deteriorating infrastructure. Urban renewal in 1967 marked the end of the area. But the point being is that a rail line and a waterfront hotel were the impetus for 70 years of economic growth and benefit for West Haven, especially along the shoreline. And we believe history will serve us well with the West Haven train station and a new destination waterfront hotel. In the City of West Haven Plan of Conservation and Development, it encourages along the shoreline the ability to have taller buildings with parking tucked under. It suggested that on page 79, along with plazas, public access areas, and it says even a hotel is a suggested use. Now, in looking at the property map here, just want to draw to your attention that the existing structure only has a footprint of about 12,000 square feet. Then you have the boardwalk as a public easement, and then the area where the gazebo on the other side is still part of that 3.5 acre parcel. And right now, the way it's constituted, there's 163 parking spaces. So you have 163 parking spaces and a 12,000 square foot footprint. So in order to expand the building area, it goes back to that recommendation to tuck the parking underneath as possible. Well, we're proposing the Kelsey Hotel, which would be at the end of Kelsey, the road. Come down to the water. This would be at the terminus. And again, we have the parking tucked under the building. Parking tucked under the building, as you can see here. Working with a similar part of the existing footprint. Outside plaza area, elevated plaza for pool deck, a area for outdoor amenity on a raised deck, and again having boardwalk access for commercial interaction along that entire boardwalk area. Again, the plaza that we have in the front here, When I speak about the front, I'm talking about along the boardwalk here. We have the elevated plaza with a pool deck for the patrons, and then we have a semi-public plaza out onto the boardwalk, and we bring up to the 9/11 Memorial, right integrated with the edge of the plaza there. It's estimated 125 to 150 room destination hotel as proposed would add upwards of $700,000 to $800,000 a year in the property taxes alone. Room taxes are 15%. They assist the state and by extension the locality. The area benefits include lodging, food and beverage facilities, recreation, entertainment, health and sports, travel, arts and culture, local events, shopping, to name a few items. The group has a practice of, on its rooftops, using solar power and also having electric charging stations for automobiles. And this is a project that would not require any lease subsidies from the city, but would pay directly into the economy. At present, we have the local example, $40 million spent over the last 3 years in the town of Orange for the Homewood Suites and now the Marriott renovations. Approval and beginning of construction for a Hampton Inn and Suites in North Haven, about a $20 million project, and a similar one also approved in Wallingford. I think in the proposal that you should have received, you would see that the partnership owns many hotels in the Midwest and into New York State, and that they've been looking along the shoreline for quite some time. They would be a cost of about $35 million. Again, roughly 135 rooms, many of them with balconies to make good use of the waterfront views. Annual visitors to the hotel, based on an 80% occupancy, would be more than 100,000 people. And we're not talking about day trippers, we're talking about extended stay guests. Having visited the Madison Beach Hotel, which is about 1/3 the size. It's a 34,000 square foot facility with 32 rooms. And during the summer months, people will rent almost by the week there. It's a vacation spot. They stay and they go to all the area restaurants, and they come, they stay, they spend money, which is, of course, what we want to see happen. Projected annual revenues for food and beverage would be approximately $12 million a year, and this would have a banquet facility. This would hold proms. This would hold weddings. This would hold bar mitzvahs. This would hold anything. It would be able to be a conference center. Being at the end of Kelsey, near about 1.5 miles from the train station, we would anticipate that it would be a conference draw from New York to Boston. Medical conferences, legal seminars, all sorts of seminars and conferences to have a use of a hotel and this waterfront venue. Generally speaking, in the hospitality industry, it talks about a 4-to-1 multiplier as to what takes place within the community. This could bring upwards of $50 million a year into the general community in the recycling of monies. You buy food, you get a food purveyor, you have other support businesses, the Ubers, taxis, maintenance services. We even talk about waterfront-related vendors, jet ski rentals, kayaks, things of that nature. We would also even make another proposal. The open space adjacent to the rock, there are provisions in the redevelopment plan for leasing for special events, that can take place. What we would do is we would provide the infrastructure for that. It had been suggested as a way to bring revenues to the area for certain festivals, an area for food trucks. We could electrify the area for that, put down a crushed seashell parking lot for overflow special event parking. This property gets developed, the Fire Expo is going to need another home. That would be a suitable place for it, plus other items could really take place there. The experience that we had over at the Homewood Suites and the Marriott was during the pandemic. They were full occupancy, except for areas in the Marriott that were being renovated. They were at full occupancy, they were housing first responders, they were housing all the additional medical personnel who did not want to stay in their homes, with families. They were able to provide that, and also a good resource for the West Campus. The hotel visually at the end of Kelsey Avenue could be the centerpiece and an anchor for an economic revitalization of the area. We certainly believe it would enhance the image. It would give a focal point and bring more dollars for investment into the area. When somebody takes that step and puts that kind of money into a site like that, it creates a confidence level for more investment to take place. The Savin Rock Parkade, we've been working on that a little bit. You know, we did the Dunkin' Donuts there, and we're working with the new owner, but again, they only want to take baby steps because they lack the confidence to really go all in. So I had basically presented a lot of material to you last week, so I will not go into anything further, but again, you can kind of see what we're looking at. We have a rooftop venue up there. You can have a rooftop bar and a private space there that could be leased out. We have a ballroom level. We have a pool level. We have a private dining area level. And then we have the ground level fully open to the public. It's interesting, we spent more time taking a look at this from the water, because who wants to look at it from a parking lot, right, really? But you're on this spot, you really want to make good use of this. You know, we have the rock there, and we have something that we feel will be a draw to the area, a reason to walk down to the end of the boardwalk. So that's all. I will keep it to that.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I will open it up for any questions. Chairman Quagliano?
Thank you, Chairman Donovan. Mr. Gordon, thank you for your presentation. So a couple of questions. What's the brand? You said it's the Kelsey Hotel. Is it a Marriott? Is it a Hilton?
It'll be either a Marriott Signature Series or a Hilton Curio Series. That's one of their top brands. They're boutique hotels. The benefit of using those is that we don't have to follow their prototype designs. When you see the Hampton Inn and Suites, they kind of are cookie cutter, but these, as a special top level, we get to do what we want to do because of the venue, the location.
Yeah, and I've been a resident here all my life, so I've seen hotels that have started out as brand name hotels, and then they sell to maybe a mid-level hotel, and then they sell to maybe I don't want to say a lower level hotel, but I'll say it, a lower level hotel. And so how do we safeguard against that, right? It's all about market. So if the hotel's not making their margin and they decide that they want to pull out, then, you know, that's usually the course that it takes. Is there any assurance that wouldn't happen here?
Well, I actually asked that same question of the owner, because we've seen the Hampton in Wallingford became a Red Roof Inn, and then it goes down to a Comfort Inn, and it becomes, you know, it goes to a lesser brand down the road here. And I asked that same question. Basically, this location drives it. There are very, very few waterfront locations available in the area. The Madison Beach Hotel was not a Hilton product. It was built privately, and Hilton bought it because of the location. It's a much smaller facility than they ever do, but because of the location, Hilton acquired it. So that was, the assurance that I got was, in this location, it's not going to be branded down.
Yeah, and I think one other, you know, and I think if maybe if the Corp Counsel's here, maybe he could help with this, but, so I'm concerned about the height. Mm-hmm. So it, you know, even in this particular portrayal, you have this, what looks to be a massive structure, and then there's little tiny Savin rock next to it. It doesn't, symmetrically, it doesn't seem to fit the area. And again, that's for other people to decide that, but I guess my question is, if the Corporation Council is here, is that zoning-wise, is there anything, is this an acceptable use for, what is it, a four-level?
Well, this
Hotel?
actually, based on one side of the building, could actually be 5.5 stories. Your plan of conservation and development suggested this area going to 4 to 6 stories, in this area being the zoning regulations changing. That is in your plan of development. And also, the Surfside building is 12 stories. Now, that's quite a distance away, but it is what it is. It's 5.5 stories. We did not go out and measure the height of the Savin Rock to do this rendering, so I would.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, and I just, so, and again, it's this, any of these proposals, if whatever we select, it would have to go, through all the normal steps. This is an unusual step because it's public property, so it's still gonna have to go through zoning and all those types of things, but I would imagine if this isn't an as-of-right use, meaning that right now there needs to be a zoning modification in order to have that height of a building, I would imagine that we can't spot zone, so if we're gonna do it for that property, we probably have to do it for the Jimmy's property, and we have to do it for the property next to that, and next to that, and that's just, again, it's no knock on your particular project, it's just a concern I have. I think the height doesn't fit in that particular location. The hotels that you've are there any other ones that you have that are away from the interstate? Like you mentioned Homewood Suites, and that thing went up really quick in Orange, right? I think that was the one by Marshall Road. It went up during the pandemic, very, very, very quick. It's adjacent to the highway. I think the other one that you talked about is adjacent to the highway. Is there, I recognize that the interest is the shoreline, but I think this is a great project. I just don't personally think this is the proper location for this project, and I would love to see this maybe adjacent to the train station or some other location. I think as Councilman Cohen said, I think there's capacity. I think we could fill a hotel in West Haven. Again, I'm just personally struggle that this is the right location for that type of structure, but I'll yield, and I would at some point, maybe at the end, if we could ask the corporate counsel to come up and just kind of let us know what the zoning component is, because I think that's important, but thank you, Councilman Donovan.
Sure. Anyone else have, Councilman Massaro?
My question is this, first question is, it looks like, are you taking part of Jimmy's too? Because that's awful big.
No.
There ain't that much property here to put a pool and all that size of a hotel there.
This is Jimmy's right here.
All right.
Oh, no, excuse me, Jimmy's is over there. It shows up on the plan. This is the Jimmy's building right here. Here's Rock Street. Jimmy's is shown right there. There's a loading area to the side, and here's where we are located.
Now, is it my understanding, if you build this hotel here, you want to move the walk to, so you could have more space in the front towards the water?
No, we're not doing that. We're not touching, that's an easement. We can't touch that.
All right, now, my other question is this, I can't see a hotel being built there for a town like this, where I-95 is at the other side of town, and I-91, and I really can't see how you're gonna attract people to come here. Even if people come here for graduation for the University of New Haven, gonna go all the way down the end of Campbell Avenue to stay there, and I just can't see it. And I really can't see if this hotel ever goes belly up, people are gonna start seeing a 4-story building blocking the view of the water, and we're gonna end up with a debonair again, vacant for many years, and we're gonna eat it. And I really, personally, I can't see, I go along with the chairman.
Well, these
It
gentlemen
doesn't
have
fit in that
invested-
area.
Yeah, these gentlemen have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in the hotel industry. I trust their marketing expertise.
Are you all set, Councilman Massaro?
Yeah, I'm done.
Councilwoman Husky.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions. You said there's parking underneath. So when you say underneath the hotel, do you mean like the first floor will be drive-in, or you're going into the ground underneath?
No, basically, if you take a look at this elevation over
Yeah, I'm sorry,
here.
I really, it's, yeah.
Part of it has parking. We're actually keeping the parking lot that's there and going over it. We're not taking out parking spaces, but matter of fact, I'm restriping, and I'm actually going up to 200 parking spaces on this site. Here's the lot underneath here, so this part of the building is extending over the existing parking lot.
Mm-hmm. And how many square feet, is, like, so the existing building, I guess I can't even ask how many square feet, because it's gonna possibly be up to 6 stories. How many, the building there now, the width of it and the depth, like, I'm trying to understand.
Well, the actual footprint is somewhere around 12,000, 13,000 square feet, the existing building footprint.
Right. And your footprint is gonna stay within that? That's what I'm
Well,
trying to
my
understand.
footprint will be
Are
a
you going-
little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger out almost to this sidewalk area over here.
But not
And then the
the
rest of it's
9/11
over
memorial.
it, it's built over it.
Mm-hmm. And then there'll be some additional parking underneath?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so, I'm curious, so you said about 160 rooms, maybe?
125 to 150, we're doing our analysis based on 135.
Okay, and it'll have a restaurant?
It would have a small convenience restaurant, it would have a little, snack area, ice cream, things of that nature, and perhaps
It's a cheap hotel.
a support restaurant for the facility. It would also have in-house breakfast, things of that nature.
So I apologize, I don't know all the lingo of the hotel. So when you say a support restaurant, I go there with myself and my children. Do we sit down at a restaurant and eat, or is it room service? I don't understand what the kitchen situation. What's the difference between a restaurant and a support restaurant?
Well, basically what happens is, like, if you were to go into the Homewood Suites, they have a prep kitchen in the back, and then they have a buffet area, and then they have a sit-down area. This area would probably be more than a prep kitchen. They would also have a cooking kitchen there, and they would be able to have some wait service there, but it would not be probably more than, maybe a 50-person restaurant.
Got it. And how many jobs do you feel that this,
Well, we're estimating 15 full-time, minimally 25 part-time plus banquet staff. They also do shuttle service. Right now, they have a shuttle service from the Homewood, the Marriott, over to the West Campus. They do that kind of shuttle service, so they have a couple of private vehicles that they use to shuttle people, and they would do that from the train station as well.
and how large would the banquet hall be?
We would figure that it would have a maximum capacity of about 350 people. Be able to break it down into smaller
Graduating
rooms.
class at West Haven High School is 400 plus. You wouldn't be able to holster.
Do they all go?
Yes, with dates. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilwoman, Hamilton,
Hello,
sorry.
Mr. Gordon, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you also. You heard how excited we were about the museum being preserved, rather. Is there any accommodations for?
It would have been, I didn't want to repeat what was said there before. We would basically have elements of memorabilia, artifacts in the lobby, and we would also probably in the small dining room restaurant, we could actually have a dedicated space for museum stuff, but we didn't want to presume to take the museum into our space, but we would make accommodation for them if they have a collection that they want to show. We figure with the guests coming into the community, they would have to come through the lobby and see all these things, and it would be a good opportunity for them to get to know the history of the area.
Councilman Cohen?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gordon, for coming tonight, and obviously, I want to also thank you for your fortitude at the last meeting to basically speak up with your receipt in hand, because just like we do with any RFQs, we get to see all the RFQs and we allow people to present, as we did last December with the Smyrna Group. So I consider this to be basically our best practice, legal or required or not required. So thank you for doing that, otherwise you would have gotten lost in the shuffle. So I thank you for that, for all the transparency that needs to be had. In terms of my questions, I do want to say, I don't know about 5 feet, 6, 5-story, 6-story, whatever, but if that's what it says in the conservation and development or what have you, I didn't measure the rock either, so I'm not going to pass judgment in terms of it being too high or too low. I also want to say that, I think they're both great proposals, but I think what you're proposing here is a destination hotel, so for us to say that we want it near the train station or something, well, obviously you wouldn't have a signature hotel near the train station. I think what you're trying to do here, this is a destination for tourism, but at the same time, what you're really going to do is bring business in here. Business like trade shows, business like people are going to do. The idea of bringing people into West Haven to spend money in West Haven. These are not going to be largely people that stay for the day and then leave. These are people that are going to spend their money at restaurants, and by doing that, it's going to stimulate other economic development. And so I did want to just basically say that I see the benefits of both proposals, but I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater with this, because something like this is something atypical that comes to West Haven. We have a shoreline. The devil's in the details, and all this requires more discussion. But the idea that you are having a banquet facility, the idea that you're having a conference center, which is key, especially in the New Haven, Hartford region, if you will, where there is a lack, except for Hartford that has a smaller conference center facility, to be able to do this. This is something that's been lacking in New Haven and the surrounding of this type of thing. So, and also having the banquet facility here, so it's going to be both, if it's going to be for the commercial, if you will, as well as the business, that's what I understand. So you have a mix here of extended stay where you're bringing in money that people are not only staying in West Haven, but you're also getting people outside of West Haven, that this is because it's a destination. Is that correct?
That's the goal.
Okay. In terms of the $50 million that you brought up, this is the additional stimulus that you're saying, the $50 million that will be stimulated through other businesses and so forth from just the extended use. Can you explain that?
Well, the trade magazines, and I was going through a hospitality report, and it basically talks about a multiplier effect. And we used to do conventions. My former partner used to do conventions at the New Haven Coliseum, and what would happen was for every dollar spent, it would multiply through different hands. They would buy this, they would hire that service, or this service would take place. So that was key to the conservation, to the Convention Bureau in New Haven, in order to try to have conventions there, because it wasn't just the receipt, it was the parking payment, it was the restaurants, it was the people at the hotel who were making money. They had their wages, they had the money spent in the restaurant, the taxi cabs, all different type of things, the entertainment, the theaters, the cultural aspects of things as well. So that was they had the formula 4 to 1, and that seems to be what the industry is talking about, that for every dollar spent here, it could be a multiplier of 4.
Yeah, because the one thing that you said, which I think is true of any city, should it be New Haven or should it be Chicago or what have you, what is really going to make any type of facility like this thrive, I mean, if it's going to be that rail line. Because that rail line, which you just said before, that you're going to have a shuttle service, and I assume that shuttle service is going to go back and forth to, if necessary, to the train station? Is that what you're looking at doing?
Train station or any place else that a guest wants to go, they would shuttle them there.
Okay, so they would shuttle them to, let's say, to go to the Savin Rock Plaza, if you will, or to a downtown establishment.
Within an area.
Within an area, within a piece of real estate there. And what types of things do you know, or can you even comment on that they do for the community? Obviously, we're big community-minded people here, and obviously, I know on a local levels, to differing degrees, I know that the higher level hotels like the Hilton and Marriott do things, but do you know anything about what they would do here in West Haven in terms of philanthropic, community-minded types of activities?
I really can't speak to for the owners, but obviously they do participate in cultural events. If they're down there, they're gonna, like I said, they would build the infrastructure for the area for Savin Rock Days on the adjoining property there. They'd be happy to do that. They would certainly make use of the gazebo area is actually part of the property. There's not an easement for the gazebo. The easement is just for the boardwalk, but they would make that obviously available for public activity.
Well, and the reason why I ask that is because of the stimulus between having people come from out of town, maybe out of state or whatever. If you're having a sales meeting, you're gonna have people come from the tri-state area, out of state, they're gonna take the plane, they're gonna come into Tweed, they're gonna come to JFK, they're gonna take this, so you're gonna get a lot of other stimulus, and you basically said, if I have this correctly, that the property tax would be, or at least you guys estimate, between $700,000 and $800,000 a year, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I took a look at the $35 million cost, I did the 70%, from the appraisal assessed there, and then looked at your mill rates, and it could wind up being higher than that. I'm not sure how your fire district tax plays into that area as well, but just on the raw numbers, it would be pretty significant.
Yeah, and you may not know the answer to this, because I know that the room tax that you stated, which I believe is 15% room tax in Connecticut anyway, but I mean, do you know, if you don't know, you don't know, the 15%, I believe it's a state room tax. Do cities get to share in that, or do they add on their own 1 or 2% premium to the rooms? I know, like in the big cities, you'll get your state room tax, and then for that municipality or that city, they add another 1 or 2%, so that's always additional revenue. I don't know what they do in the state of Connecticut with that.
That's a great unknown. I actually called up the Connecticut Department of Revenue Services, and I asked that specific question, and the big answer that came back from the department was, we don't know.
Okay.
So that makes a lot of confidence, doesn't it?
Okay, no, I'm just thinking if there's extra, I'm just asking because that's a big tax,
Well, it should come back, at least a portion of it, you would think should come back to the place of origin, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bruno.
Thank you. Thanks for coming before us tonight, we appreciate it. Can you tell me what the average stay would cost per night, staying in a place like that magnitude?
I would say that it probably is a sliding scale, depending on the high season, low season. I could see the rooms going for anywhere between $180 and $380, depending on the season and the view. The Madison Beach Hotel has a high season $600 for certain rooms. I don't think we would find ourselves at that level, but
Is this property that you're looking to lease this property or purchase this property?
no, this would be a purchase. In order to involve a bank, and we've gone through a lot of lending institutions, they do not want to put that kind of money out there without control of the property.
Okay, thank you very much. Nothing else.
Nope, yep, one more.
I do. Lee, this is to you, because I dislike hypotheticals. It is my understanding that in the city of West Haven, none of our, or possibly, tell me, do our hotels charge an additional 1 to 2% tax?
Okay.
Do you know?
So I'm going to say that I am not an expert in the hotel and leisure industry in the city of West Haven. What I can tell you is if you follow the Hartford development of the baseball field, it's the kind of thing that you can have discussions with the state and get a dedicated amount if you have a large enough project.
Like Miami Beach, if you go down to Miami Beach and you do anything on that beach, those are Miami Beach tax.
Right. No, but-
Similar to like the Havens, they would have that additional tax.
Yes, so you can negotiate that with the state. The other thing I would tell you, though,
Right.
is the delegations, they don't like losing that money. So, when Hartford tried to have a dedicated tax on the tickets in the stadium, there was some fighting on that. It's not ruled out, but depends on the size of your project, but it is a negotiation you have to go through after the fact.
So it's hypothetical that
I would say
because we don't have it now.
the percentage likelihood that you would get a dedicated hotel tax on this project are slim and none and slim left town.
Because Best Western would want it. What's our other one?
Hampton.
Thank you. Hampton Inn, they'd want it. I mean, they'd be foolish not to ask. Okay, I just wanted to clarify because it was just a little dirty for me. I'm done.
Thank you.
Can we, while he's there, can I just follow up on the zoning question?
Yes, and then
I'm sorry. I didn't want you to have to sit back and come back again there, Counselor.
I'm not that
concerned about you. So, if you could answer, again, this has to go, whatever project it moves forward, has to go through the full zoning process, I understand that, but it's a decision point in my mind about height of the building. Like I said, I personally aesthetically don't think that location is the right fit. That being said, what are the zoning implications? I know Mr. Gordon mentioned that this is included in our plan of conservation and development, the potential for that, but does it exist now? And if it does not exist, what does that mean to us as a community as far as raising the height of buildings, either in just that location or other locations in that area?
All right, so first of all, Mr. Gordon is well-versed in our zoning, our plan of development, our wetlands regulations. He comes to places, when he's speaking about a proposal, he comes from a position of being well-educated and being fact-based. You have a conservation plan of development, it's a 5-year type plan, a lot of work goes into it, and the idea is to try to set in place a guidepost for the community, but especially the Planning and Zoning Commission, to sort of implement policies. And as you know, things change. Easiest example is Armstrong Tire, 10,000 people going to work one day, and then in 1980, it's decided it's not economically efficient. So obviously, the plan of development doesn't say, we need another tire manufacturer in the area across from Stop and Shop. So, you work with that, and you try to think of different things. The plan of conservation and development envisions, so where you have Stowe's, and you have the high-rise, that's a different zone than this. So you couldn't have that high-rise here. So what the conservation plan of development does recommend, because it talks about preserving areas, preserving space, making space public-oriented. You have the largest, here in West Haven, is the largest open space beach in the state of Connecticut. And so the conservation plan of development envisions that you might need to monetize the waterfront a little bit. So they do recommend, one of the recommendations is that you could, you'd have to change the zoning regs, but you could change the zoning regs for 4 feet as of right, 6 feet by special permit. Now, the areas affected would be here at the conference
I'm
center.
sorry, 4 feet or 4 floors?
4 stories.
4 stories, okay.
6 stories as of right.
Okay.
So, the places affected would be the conference center space, the Gagliardi property, Jimmy's, and then the strip mall. So that's your basic area of zone currently that would be impacted by that. And, the zoning commission would have to make the change. The idea would be that change would have both a positive impact on city taxes, all that stuff, but not a negative impact on the conservation space. But certainly the conservation plan and development, it's a vision. It gets tweaked. It's not mandated. And, the reason why I have something like this is you're going to have information, public gets to know what they're doing. I'm sure you're going to hear back from the public, so it's a guidepost, it's not mandatory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Pete, Councilman
One
Massaro?
Did I understand you said you want to buy the property? That's the only way you're going to get financing?
$35 million, yes, it would have to be a purchase.
So then if this don't go through, or if that fails, we're going to be stuck with an eyesore, just like we are with the Debonair, because I don't see it going. If you want to lease the property, that'd be a good consideration, but
If I might, Mr. Chairman? I would say that's the kind of negotiation posture that we want to try to avoid.
Correct.
I could make suggestions about how we might
you got my answer.
make this a process by which we could be amenable with rights of reversion or so on and so forth. But I would ask that we not discuss things that would be part of a negotiation.
Thank you. The last comments here will be from the mayor. Finance.
Thank you. So I want to speak to a couple of things. One, I hate the height myself. This is my own personal opinion. And the reason is I love driving down Kelsey Avenue, and the first thing you see is the water behind it and how gorgeous it is. So that, to me, is bad enough. I also like the idea that we have, I think, one of the most beautiful beaches in our area, longest stretch of public beach in Connecticut. And that is why I am very in favor of some sort of lease there, but not to buy it. And one of my reasons is exactly what has been said by several members here today. What happens if it doesn't work out and we sold it? Now we have no ownership rights. In 2 years, if you want to put the 6 stories or whatever that Attorney Tiernan was just speaking about, we have no recourse. None of the residents do. None of us would, because once you sell it, it's gone. I just think we're very fortunate in West Haven. We have a beautiful, beautiful piece of property, and I get that maybe we would make more money with the hotel, and money's important. It's very important. But I don't think selling that piece of land and having a hotel on it that could expand afterwards. I've watched it in other communities. It starts off like it's okay, and then the next thing you know, and I hate to blame Miami Beach, but it looks like Miami Beach with all kinds of things on it. We're very fortunate, and I myself, I just think that, the beach is beautiful, and I think that to sell it would be a huge mistake for the city of West Haven. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank both the developers for coming tonight. I very much appreciate you taking your time out. With that, it is 8:01, and the meeting is public.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. The public hearing on this will be this Monday, November 22nd at 6:15 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
A little later. You get a straw.